Hello and welcome. My name is Laura Boyd and I'm your host. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm an entertainment reporter for television and also a presenter. But I've also been living with chronic myeloid leukemia for just about 11 and a half years now, which is quite scary to think back on that. The nice thing that I can take away from that time is that I've been able to combine my work with helping raise awareness and funds for cancer charities over the years. And I know firsthand how important that is. So it's a joy to be here today on behalf of ScottishPower to celebrate this incredible partnership with Cancer Research UK, which began back in 2012 when life, quite frankly, seemed quite normal back then, didn't it? Now, over £30 million has been raised since then, an incredible amount. And it's great to hear that ScottishPower isn't stopping there and in fact have recently agreed to continue supporting the charity for another 3 years. That amount of money is honestly invaluable in funding the work that Cancer Research UK does. You don't need me to tell you that, though. We've got an esteemed panel joining us today to tell you more. We've got Dr. Sam Godfrey. He's the Senior Science Communications Manager at Cancer Research UK. Kerry Eames, who is a Cancer in the Workplace nurse. And Andrew Ward, CEO of ScottishPower Energy Retail. Now, Andrew, we're going to start with you. Tell us about this partnership, though, between ScottishPower and Cancer Research UK.
You know, I often say this to people from a professional point of view. It's one of the proudest things I've ever been involved with so far in my almost 30 years career now. So on a personal point of view, I have people very, very close to me right now that are actually battling with cancer. And I feel extremely proud, and I know my colleagues feel the same when you actually look at what you're able to do, because I'm really, really proud, genuinely really proud to be able to help and to be able to spearhead this. It's fantastic.
Well, that's true. I think the nice thing about it is, and there are so many incredible charities out there, but cancer is something that does touch everyone's lives, I think now more than ever. And so it's something that everyone wants to give something back to. But Dr. Sam, how important has that input and that support from ScottishPower been?
Oh my God, it's beyond important, I think. So £30 million first up. That's such a mind-boggling huge. I tried to work out what £30 million worth of funding would do as a kind of to help any listeners kind of picture that. And it basically works out as the entire of the UCL Centre for Cancer, which is one of the best in the world, the entire the lung matrix trial, which is the biggest, most precision medicine trial for lung cancer in the world, the entire Beatson Institute, which for 6 months, which is one of the world's leading cancer things, and still have enough left over to fund all of our nurses, all of our awareness roadshows. I mean, it's huge. And I think for me, what really makes it even more important is that ScottishPower have taken this approach with Cancer Research UK that they're trusting us to spend it where the need is absolutely greatest, which means that we've been able to put it towards the things where the biggest difference can be made, which isn't necessary. And that's a really key thing in science, because you never know what's going to happen next. You never know how the world is going to shift or what breakthroughs have come through.
You will never meet anyone who is as enthusiastic about research as Sam Godfrey.
I'm coming to you next, Kerry, so you can try. And I was really interested about this, about being a nurse in the workplace, and I think so much more of that is needed. So tell me a bit about what you do.
Well, you see, so the clever people do all the research. The research and the data that's gathered is so complex, and it's just you just wouldn't be able to understand it. I certainly don't. So there's teams at the charity that kind of turn that research that's really complex into kind of messages that we can all understand, and then me and my team try to deliver those messages on the ground, and we're all nurses. We've got most of us have got quite extensive nursing backgrounds in different areas, and we're not actually cancer nurses, we're not oncology nurses. They have teams of those, but they do different jobs in the charity. But we are kind of like your health promotion nurses, and we're literally trying to make it engaging, because I think gone are the days when we used to just regurgitate all this information at people. You must know this because it's very important, and if you don't know it, then you're in danger, because we know that just spouting off too much information it means people don't remember it. So we kind of try and look for the nuggets of information, the things that are particularly important, and then try and deliver them in very engaging ways. But more than that, what we try and do these days is make sure that people are leading those kinds of conversations themselves, because nobody wants to be told what to do. And I think we can probably all relate to that. So yeah, part of our job is just trying to make it kind of fun and engaging, but also being sensitive, because like you've all said, we've all been affected by cancer in one way or another. And, you know, you'd be hard pushed to find someone these days who hasn't known somebody who's had cancer. And that goes for us too, the staff in the charity. You know, there's a reason that we work in this area, and there's a reason we work at Cancer Research UK. And it's because we all care as much as I guess you guys do.
It's hugely, just to add to what Kerry was saying, like her work, the team, the stuff that her team do is so important, because yes, science can go out and try and come up with cures and treatments and things that detect it, but if you're not getting that into people at the right time, if you're not getting people knowing their own body, knowing when to go to the doctor, knowing how, what sort of making those subtle shifts in like small changes which help them stay healthier weight or help them find the tools they need to quit, those things, they help shrink the cancer problem, because I think it's about 4 in 10 cancers are preventable. Diagnosing cancer earlier makes it, certainly for like 8 common cancers, about 3 times more survivable. But all of that is outside the control of science, and so a scientist doing something in a lab is utterly useless at making a dent in that kind of cancer burden. And so I think one thing people don't realise about Cancer Research UK is they also address that kind of very real, very human element, which is probably the key to making the biggest difference.
I want to ask Sam a question, actually. Sam, one of the questions that I'm asked quite often is, how do we decide where to spend that money in research? Because there's so many different cancer types.
I mean, that's a phenomenally important question. And I think one of the things Cancer Research UK, I'd probably say, are amongst the best in the world at is that decision making. So what we have is we employ a lot of very, very good, knowledgeable people whose job is to understand what's emerging in the community, what the important places are, what the biggest needs are. So for example, if we're seeing that lung cancer deaths are way higher than everything else, but the research community is very small in that, that's a big problem and that needs to be addressed. That creates Cancer Research UK's strategy. But then that doesn't decide where the money goes. So what we then have to do is we then recruit the best scientists from around the world, and we fund only the very best. And pound for pound, I don't know of anyone that funds better research than Cancer Research UK. The things that's incredible is some of the projects that come through, when they rate something out as outstanding, you look at it and you're looking at these things going, this could change the world. This is massive.
Living with cancer myself, I took part in a Cancer Research UK trial, which, you know, was a big deal for me. And, you know, I'm so grateful that it exists. And also, you know, at the most kind of human level, if I had been born maybe 10 years before I was and had chronic myeloid leukemia, then chances are I wouldn't be here now. Whereas now, thanks to research, I can live on chemotherapy type TKI tablets every day, with hopefully a kind of normal life expectancy, and that I think is just incredible. That's down to research, and so money is literally saving lives, which you know is just the most amazing thing. I think one thing that people will be keen to know about just now is obviously, you know, we've gone through the most awful year with coronavirus. There's a lot of concern that there's going to be another kind of cancer crisis or a major cancer crisis off the back of this, with, you know, Kerry, I know you were talking about people, you know, kind of realizing symptoms and things like that. There's, you know, a backlog, I think, of treatment. And, you know, how do you think, Sam and Kerry, how are we going to progress with that? How will Cancer Research UK help in that?
It's going to be tough. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. I've got cancer waiting lists are the biggest they've ever been. There was a shortfall in like diagnostic capacity, like the ability to actually send people for their screens, analyze the scans, all those sorts of things. We've had the added element that a lot of clinical trials got paused. Now, sometimes that's actually fine. They can just pick up again. But there was one trial where they'd been following a lot of patients over a long time, like seeing how their cancer developed, and they missed a huge chunk of data. Now that's many years of work that's actually been damaged by that. Scientists couldn't get into the labs. It was tough. However, the resilience and the resourcefulness of the scientists and with our policymakers and everything has been huge. There's also been some, as much as it has been difficult, there have been some really nice little fortuitous things that have come out of it. So, for example, one of our scientists who worked on a vaccine for cancer found that he pretty swiftly switched to try to use the same vaccine technology to support COVID research. And that was great, and that was all very exciting. But in doing so, he learned things which he's now bringing back into cancer research that he would never have stumbled upon normally because he wasn't doing that kind of research. Yeah. So there have been some positives in it, but it is going to be challenging.
Yeah.
And I think from my side, my team and the kind of cancer awareness nurses, we can't do anything about the fact that COVID has changed things, and it has caused more delays, and it's delayed screening programs and things like that. But what we can do is keep doing the work we do around raising awareness about how to reduce your risk of cancer in the first place. And that's things that, we know about, like stopping smoking, being a healthy weight has a huge impact, drinking less alcohol, being safe in the sun, enjoying the sun safely, being active and eating healthily. And if we can really drill those messages home, then in years from now, that's what will make a difference to cancer rates. But the other thing is, as we've mentioned, just making sure people are happy and comfortable to go to the doctor if they have a symptom, or speak to the doctor, we say now, because lots of doctor's surgeries, you can ring up or you can have a video appointment, so it doesn't always anymore mean actually going down to the practice, but speaking to a doctor about your symptom. Don't be embarrassed, don't be shy, certainly don't think that you're ever wasting anyone's time. If you've got something and it isn't normal for you, please get it checked out, because early diagnosis is what will save lives.
If you take something like bowel cancer, if you're diagnosed early with it, like at the very earliest stage, you have something like a 97% chance of surviving your cancer. If you're diagnosed at the latest stage, you have a 7% chance of surviving that cancer. That there's a big shift in those things. But in all of that, at the same time, we're on the very cusp of phenomenal stuff from science, which are looking at new ways of detecting cancer. Things like making blood tests a reality that can spot cancer. That's happening right now. Like, I was reading something literally today where some of our scientists have proved a concept where they are able to pick up these earliest warning signs of cancer in the blood for certain types of cancer. So as much as we're in a situation where there's a big challenge because of the pandemic, I think the kind of palpable optimism that exists in the science community in terms of the solutions and the things which are in the pipeline, I at no point in all this have I kind of gone, oh no, and despaired. I'm like, it's still looking exciting.
And Andrew, for you then, does that make, this partnership that you've agreed to for the next 3 years, does that make it even more important, do you think?
Laura, sitting listening to you talk about your own experiences as well, it just brings it home. It really does. As I said at the start, I've got somebody extremely close to me that's battling it right now. I looked at where we've come from through COVID, and the world has united to try and find a vaccination and get going. It's almost, we need that sort of effort and focus to try and once and for all get a cure to all the different types of cancer there, and help people cope with it as well. And I don't need any other encouragement, to be honest with you.
We'll leave it to Dr. Sam to look ahead to the future and maybe give us a kind of glimpse at what's coming up, and what exciting things you touched on it there are being worked on. But if you can sum up kind of what the future looks like, that would be good.
I mean, I think to start the sum up, just even where we've got to now in itself is extraordinary. I think cancer's the most complex. We've touched on this today. It's the most complex problem humanity's ever faced. I mean, you're talking about one cell goes wrong, grows into 1 trillion cells that are wrong, each of them doing their own thing. They're us, so our own body doesn't recognize them as wrong. And yet the fact that half of all people now survive is in itself should be enough to make people's jaws drop to the floor, because that is probably the pinnacle of human endeavor, in my opinion, to get to this stage. The fact that we've got the optimism to go the rest of the way, with the fact that we are now, we're unlocking problems that we thought we could never get through, things that were considered undruggable, we're now drugging. I mean, at the Beats and just down the road from the ScottishPower head office, they've found ways of interfering with something called KRAS, which literally before people thought you couldn't tinker with, and yet it's at the heart of cancer, and we are now beginning to pull those strings. When you look at what's in the pipeline for coming up. We are beginning to look at real blood tests that can pick up the earliest signs of cancer. We're looking at incredible imaging that can spot cancer in ways that we never knew before. We're looking at immunotherapy, where we're harnessing our own immune system to actually seek out and kill cancer. And that literally scratches the surface of it. Like, I know that we don't anthropomorphize cancer. We don't make cancer a thing, because cancer is us, and it's not bad. It's just us gone wrong. But if it were an enemy, I genuinely think it would be scared, because the knowledge that we're getting, the way that we are beginning to see all its tricks and find the ways around, it's a bit like a race that I think we're beginning to win.
I like the analogy of a race that we're getting close to winning things.
And there's a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. It's still so phenomenally complex, and we're always understanding new things. It's going to be an exciting future, I think. My daughter's not going to think of cancer in the same way that I do at all.
Yeah, and that's an amazing thing to hear. And as someone living with it, it honestly does give us hope. And it's been so lovely to hear from you all today, and to feel your excitement. You really do feed off it, and it's also lovely to know that this partnership with Cancer Research UK and ScottishPower is going to continue to flourish. So all I can say is thank you, Dr. Sam, Kerry and Andrew, for taking the time out of your very busy schedules, and thank you all for listening as well.